I said no, hey,
30.
hey,
Well, welcome to another episode of Brick and Mortar, second season with my
We're
co-host with
we're
the most.
back.
well, come on,
My name is
everybody,
Matt
take
Gresick.
We've been taking a little break. I'm Eric Ebersole. I'm a state legislator, serve on the Education Subcommittee of Ways and Means, and we are just very excited to be here and kicking off a second round here. And who do we have with us today, Matt? Who do we
Well,
have?
I'm going to let her talk a little bit about herself and who she is and stuff like that and why she chose education. But I am continually impressed and constantly in awe of the wisdom and insight that Nikki Woodward, the vice president of the Maryland State Education Association, has in helping our profession and kids and communities become better and the state and the country. So without further ado, Vice
Real
President
quick though,
Nikki.
no, I get to do a little
Oh, you
too.
get to go. Good.
Yeah,
Okay,
come
fine.
on, I get to talk. No, but I will say this at the top. I'm pretty juiced to have Nikki on because Matt kind of keeps me gives me a sense of what's going on with MSEA, and he couldn't stop talking about Dr. Woodward throughout, and so so here we go. I want to lay a lot of expectation on her right now. So here we go.
Oh, the pressure
Oh
is on.
no.
Um, well, well, first of all, thank you so much for having me. I am Nikki Woodward. And yes, I do have a doctorate. They tease me because I never use it, but I always tell people I'm never ashamed of it. It's just, I want to be the same old Southern girl that I've always been. I am at heart, I'm a special educator. My passion for the last 25 years has been working with students who have visual impairment, deaf blindness, and within the infant and toddler world, I have worked across 5 states, 3 countries, supporting children who have visual impairments, deaf blindness, developmental delays. And I am so in love with being a special educator. I think there's nothing else. I started no offense to you guys, I started as a social studies teacher, but I quickly swung my way and realized that my heart really was in special education. I'm from South Carolina. I pride myself on being a girl from the South, so much so that Matt will tell you my car tags say grits 25. And because I'm good
Does
old
that mean
fashioned
there's
grits.
24 other people in the state of Maryland who have grits as their license plate?
No, so funny, interesting about that number. All of my siblings are born on the 25th of
I
a
see.
month.
Okay.
March, May, and
That's
June. So
great.
25 is our number.
That's
We always
very
selected
good
25.
news.
So that's a little bit in a nutshell who I am. I'm passionate about my union work. Growing up in the South, people always say South Carolina isn't a deep South. Well, grow up there. You'll learn quickly which roads not to turn down. So growing up in the South, there was always the anti-union. So once I moved to spaces that had that, and I realized the power I had in electing the people who made decisions, the school board, the county council, the county exec, I was all in. It was a set of power and empowerment that I had never experienced before. And so I've been proud member of MCEA, Montgomery County Education Association. And I worked my way up from being their GR, government relations chair, for a little over 10 years. I was the treasurer. I was a board member. And then finally, before becoming MSEA's vice president, I was MCEA's vice president.
Very nice. I will. First of all, I don't care that you left being a social studies teacher because I was a math teacher. So, who cares about the social studies teachers anyway? But I will say having special educators on our show is really valuable because the further I got, I started long ago when we didn't really use special educators in the way that we learned to later. But having them there to help you was always a big, giant, important thing to me. So I really do appreciate that for sure. But yeah, that's great. Isn't it true that one of the Carolinas, I think it's North, doesn't allow teachers to collective bargaining? I believe
Neither one.
neither one.
Neither
No,
one.
I
Neither
want you
one.
to listen to that, people. No unionization, no single voice is allowed to be formed in either of the Carolinas. Okay, so worry about that because your teachers are really probably getting the short end of the stick
Yes,
if you're using the schools down there.
absolutely.
Yep.
Do you want me to do the second question?
You got it, man.
All right,
Sorry.
and then you'll do the third. What's your most difficult, challenging, funniest, or most rewarding moment in education? In other words, what event sticks out in your memory the most? It's story time, Nikki. I know this is going to be an awesome story.
You know what? every kid is so special and unique. And so I'm sorry, I can't help it. I have two. So I think the most eventful one that stands out for me, because Matt and I got to be with my student last night, the co-chairperson for the Maryland State Education Early Career Committee is my student. And I got to work with her and support her. And we did everything from learning how to, as a vision teacher, you also teach travel skills. So everything from learning how to be an independent traveler around Montgomery County to cooking, which was not her thing. So to be able to be a part of that experience, and then to also now work with her as a colleague and see her cheering and leading the work for early career educators now is like amazing. But I won't land on that little dry story. I think it's the greatest thing, because it's nothing, you can tell, like there's nothing like your students thinking what you did is so great that they actually become educators, right? So I think that's important.
Yeah.
But the funniest is, okay, so I was a chick from South Carolina. I had moved and went to grad school out in Colorado. So I had lived out in Greeley and Denver, Colorado. And in that time, I decided I wanted a little bit of a change. And so I decided to put my hat in the basket of potentials. And so I reached out to the Helen Keller Center for the Deafblind, which is in Sands Point, New York, which is on Long Island. And they picked me up and they allowed me to come and work there. And during the summer, they support all the 5 boroughs. And during the summer, they have a teen program. And the teen program is intermixed with some of the young adult program. And one of the things we do is all the students who have some degree of deafness or visual impairment are at this camp. And so there's a variety of needs. And so I was told that I had to take them on their New York City excursion. So I had to drive, yes, a 12-passenger van with my students and young adults on this van, never having to think about this. I was coming from living in Denver and driving out to as far as Yuma in Otis, Colorado. All I saw was cows and all the different wildlife that you can imagine, right? I'm literally in this van. I get lost. I get off the wrong exit. And so I pull over, and in my flip phone, I call my mom crying. And she's like, "What are you doing?" I was so lost. I couldn't find, nobody was answering the phone back at the facility to give me directions to get into the city. And my mom was like, "Where's the students?" I was like, "They're in the back. They can't see me or hear me. I just need a moment." And so I cried to my mom. And then I went up and I went and checked on the students. And then we got out and I made it. I made it to the city. I parked. And then I took them out and we did a full day of learning how to navigate curb endings, cross the street, and be independent. But it definitely humbled me that I was this Southern girl who always is like, I can take on anything. A passenger van full of students when you don't know the area was a bit much. So that always sticks in my mind.
And every time we hear a story, and you fit right into this, when we ask people for their stories, it's always about teachers doing extraordinary service, like service to kids well beyond what people think teachers do all the time.
President
It's
Bush
always
camping.
something. I'm driving kids in a van, or I was, out in the Chesapeake Bay with them knee deep in mud. There's always, and you have it. There it is, right there. Driving, hauling them around in a van to an important thing. So I love that. I really do love that. So Matt tells me that not only are you talking about working with deaf and blind students, but you work with very young students, and that this is a passion of yours. So I'm going to ask you, we're going to talk about the teachers first. Well, maybe we'll go to the kids second, but right now let's talk about the teachers, because you're a union person. And I always say about MSEA, it's on one union, it only worries about the people that are members. It worries about the people that their members serve, which is the students. It's rare. But today, let's talk about the members. What do you think some of the challenges are that early childhood educators face, and how does the union prop them up for some of those challenges?
So within my spectrum of infant and toddler, that's really special services. We don't call it special education because it's right before, it's a part of Part C of the IDEA, Individual Disability Education Act. So it's Part C. It's right before you get that IEP. You get something called an IFSP, an Individual Family Service Plan. And so I think some of the challenges that come with that is there's a certain uniqueness to being with a parent and supporting a parent who is raw with identifying and learning what the journey for their child is. So there's a lot of, in addition to being an expert in your content, you really have to be an expert in having strong social emotional skills to be able to work with parents where they are. Sometimes they are happy for your support and services, and sometimes they are angry at the world that the dreams that they had held for their child is disappearing. So being able to have the ability to manage both of those things, being excellent at your craft, whether it's supporting a family and teaching a child how to speak, how to walk, how to hold a utensil to feed themselves, potty train, as well as the dynamics that happen in a family. The father loses his job. So I think that having to deal with the entire family is a challenge that, because you're in people's homes, you're in childcare facilities, it's a very unique difference than being in a school building where you're a little protected from some of the wrath or some of the discomfort that comes from the family dynamics when you're educating a child.
Well, you don't always know what
Additionally,
you're going into, for sure.
you do not. The stories are
Makes
long.
perfect sense.
You do not know what you're going into, and to the point of we can talk about that other stuff, but there's a lot of practices that we had to do as safety precautions to really make sure we were protecting and supporting each other, because we didn't always get that from management. And so I would also say that there is no curriculum. When you go and teach in a classroom, you get
That's the most frightening concept in the world to me. Okay. As a high school teacher, what? No curriculum, please.
Right? But your kids have to move the needle. Like, you've got to move the needle on those kids. And so the judgment of really comes from parents saying, I don't think my kid's moving enough. I think that you aren't good enough for my kids. And so there's a lot of ambiguity that goes into what that service and practice looks like, and whether or not the persons who you're also supporting, parents, caregivers of all varieties, feel that you're being effective. And so it becomes really a lot of qualitative versus quantitative capacity to judge how well something is going, how well the service is going. Additionally, you're constantly alone in your car. Even though you have a team, you're by yourself. And there's a little bit of isolation that you have to deal with. And then don't get me started on the paperwork. Within our world of infant and toddler, we not only had to support the IFSP, the Individual Family Service Plan, we also had to do the assessments and write the IEP for the child when they transition to school-based services for pre-K or kindergarten, depending on what the parent was selecting for their child, if they had been with the extended IFSP world, infant and toddler world. So, there's just a lot of those the events and things that happen that you can't control. Right. Now, where the union came in, that's actually where I got my power from. As an infant toddler practitioner, I was itinerant. So they had me 1 year, I'm not lying. They had me we had 4 infant toddler offices in Montgomery County. They had me in 2 different offices for 0.3. And then they had me in a school as an itinerant in the school system for 0.4. And they had me at 13 buildings with a 0.4. Exactly. Think about that. So it's like, oh, but this kid's once a month and this kid's that. And so we had a labor management council for infant and toddler and for special education. And no one represented the vision deafblind. And I was like, I'll do it. And so basically we were able to make some significant changes to our labor management committees for special education. For our kids, for early childhood, our pre-Ks, we were having to give them families interims on their students every quarter, which matched what the students 1st through 12th were getting. Kindergarten only did twice a year. So we were able to negotiate and say, we're early childhood, we should be treated like kindergarten. So we were able to shift and have our quarterlies not be due, except they became the match for K. That became big because think about it, speech and language pathologists sometimes would have caseloads of 40, 50 little tykes. Imagine writing all those 4 times a year. So that really lifted that up. And then also with infant and toddler, we're a 12-month program. Well, many of the counties use 10-month employees. And so they create these ways of saying you have to work during the summer during these times and you have to be off. So we were able to negotiate a more, we never got 12 months for us in Montgomery County, but we created a 10/12, meaning that there was flexibility for our educators to be able to take off time when they needed and wanted to, as long as in order to make sure that we were providing families with wraparound services. So we were our times were facilitated more like 12 months, and our schedule was a 10-month. The plus was the flexibility, although of course they always got a lot of free time off of our backs. So creating and looking at what are the individual impacts that, one good thing about that also allowed is that 10-month employees weren't allowed to take out for their retirement for their 403 and 457, but over 10 months. By us moving to that, I was able to negotiate and say, no, we want that. So all of the infant toddler in Montgomery were able to have their 403 and 457 taken out all year round, 26 of your pay periods. So the spreading out that ability to think forward in your retirement. So the union has allowed us to be able to have camaraderie, get together and have conversations, ask the hard things of labor management and say, look, this is what we need, and demand the things we need. And when there's pushback, work together collectively. In one office, you have 40 practitioners. Well, across 5 offices, we had 400 practitioners. You can't push back 400 of us. So I really think that the union provides that platform to really learn what's going on, what the challenges are at various white work sites, and elevate them in a way that allow a significant change, whether it be through memorandums of understanding or be through real contract language changes.
Thank you. Yeah, just real quick for people who are listening and don't know what infants and toddlers is, it's a program that parents can call counties to have people come and help evaluate and work with their children. And one of the relevant parts of that is often people who call infants and toddlers are worried about their kids to start with. So that's why you talk about them being a little tense. And IFSP, for those of you know what an IEP is in school, an IFSP is one that happens before kids are in school, an individual family service plan. Just to give you a sense of what Nikki's talking about and where they were working. They were kind of, out there in the field working like that. So anyway, I do too. We get jargony sometimes in math.
Yes, we do. Sorry
no, I just wanted, if somebody's listening in. So right. Matt. Hey, Matt, we're getting a phone call. I love it when we get phone calls. Do we have a caller there? Hey, caller.
Hey.
There he is. Hey, caller, what's your name?
My name is Frankie Roosevelt.
Yeah. Oh, I have a son named Frankie. He's not Roosevelt.
Franklin Roosevelt. What a great name. I really like that. Though, we do have good callers. Caller, do you have a question for Dr. Woodward for us?
Yeah, I have an amazing question to ask. Why is investing in early childhood education so crucial, and how does it impact long-term educational outcomes?
Before you answer, Nikki, I got to say, we have callers that are so on point. That was the question that was right on the tip of my tongue. I was thinking of asking that. How do they know? I don't know. Hey, Mr. Roosevelt, thank you so much for calling in. Here comes your answer.
Wow. I mean, early childhood education it's the key to everything. We have so many of our kids who start off with needs, and it's the way in which we are able to equalize. I can remember back in 2011, we had a superintendent who I got into a nice verbal debate with about the importance of why we really need to start expanding universal pre-K and what was the importance of expanding. We had Head Start that was only half day, and they were like, studies show it's not important. Well, thank goodness for time and for research, because we know that early interventions, early childhood is an equalizer. We know that children who have had access to high quality childcare education, they're the ones who are able to go into start school and be ready to be a part of the school and be able to be good learners. It also is a place where families can learn to become true partners. That's important to me. I did my schoolwork or my research on that dynamics of families. Families want to be team players and a part of the team in school. And to me, early childhood education is where that happens. And so I think it is, if not the fundamental, it's like really neck and neck with the top. I think when we have quality childcare and childhood education, we are able to provide our students with all the information and the starter information and foundations they really need in order to be successful. The play, the critical thinking, the social skills, all the things that we know in our current society, sorry to get political on y'all, but that are missing, right? If we actually had our kids working together collaboratively, working across lines, across gender, across race, if we continue that type of learning throughout, I don't think that we would be in the very tragic social situations we are in today and political climate we're in, where there's constantly this push against and it's this party lines that exist. Early childhood is where children learn to work collaboratively together. It's where they learn those foundations. Long-term impact, as we know that students and children who start and have a strong foundation, they have higher rates of graduation. They have higher rates of career success, of lifelong sustainability, of happiness, of social emotional skills and ability to work and interact. Why not? Even if someone didn't believe in it, what do we have to lose in trying something that we know research shows is successful?
Yeah, that's what I always say is that what's the goal of education? To have kids pass tests in some year or to have functional and productive and happy lives. And that's what longitudinal data tells us. And what you're saying is, and we agree with you, is that starting early gives them that much more chance of getting to that point.
That much more. Yeah. It's the equalizer, and it's the equalizer in society structure against all of our students, right? Some of us are going to be able to afford more for our kids than others, but I'm an educator at the core. I want every baby to be successful. And that is what early childhood brings.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Dr. Woodward. Vice President Woodward. Vice President Dr. Woodward.
Your Majesty, whatever you like.
We're coming. You mentioned a little bit about, being in this space with the federal administration is what it is now. But we wanted to definitely end with something fun, and that is the mascot question. Has there ever been a school that you had a mascot and you're like, man, I wish this mascot was this instead of this, or, improve this mascot? It is up to you now. You are just a queen of the day, and you get to put that perfect mascot in. So what is?
You know what? I would have to say, of all the mascots that I've had, that doggone John Hopkins Blue Jay. What is that? Who are you beating with that?
Yay. Oh, yay.
You're not winning anything. I don't care how good you are when you're a Blue Jay.
Blue Jays. Do you have an idea what you would change? Do you have a better name for the Hopkins? You want like the Hopkins Surgeons or something like that,
Honestly, I don't know. I really don't have a change for it, but I'm gonna tell you what I don't like is Blue Jays, but don't tell me.
Nobody from Hopkins is allowed to listen to this podcast. We have them blocked. No worries.
I'll make sure hundreds of Hopkins listeners.
We know all the IP addresses, and they're all blocked from this podcast. So.
Sorry, alumni group.
Well, I just want to say thank you so much, Nikki. It's been a pleasure getting to know you, and I love you. I treasure you. You are just a ray of sunshine and hope in these dark days, and just
keep up the good fight. Okay, we will too. There you go.
Thank you so much. Appreciate you all for all you do. Keep it
Ladies
up,
and gentlemen. We'll be back with another episode in a week or two.
Yep. Take care.
Okay, Rick and Mortar from the Inside Out signing off. Thank you all.